We got to get to our thoughts on the rest of Week 5 of the National Football League. You know what? I'll let you go first because this was a little bit of a strange weekend, in my opinion. Outside of a few games, not a lot of scoring. The 1 o'clock games were not great. I don't really have a lot of strong opinions this week. It was kind of mostly what we expected.
Well, the Baltimore Ravens dropping 8 passes was not what I expected. I thought the Ravens were supposed to have this new great offense with Todd Monken. They bring in Zay Flowers. Rashad Bateman's healthy now. They bring in Odell Beckham Jr. They have Mark Andrews. And I find out via Sal Palantonio on Sunday NFL Countdown that the receivers coach is having them try and catch not footballs, but rugby balls. What?
That's an interesting approach, and clearly it's not working. I have no idea, by the way, how Pittsburgh won that game. Basically, Kenny Pickett told Matt Canada to go find a new job and threw it up to George Pickens and said, let's go win this game. Listen, the Steelers do what the Steelers always do, right? Defense, they get a blocked punt that leads to a safety, hang in there throughout the whole game, look horrible for 3.5 quarters, and yet the Pittsburgh Steelers have a pop gun offense that cannot move the football, are 3-2 and leading the AFC North.
I don't know how. I genuinely don't know how. But it looks like Joe Burrow is back to being
I tried telling everybody. Everybody tried to write Cincinnati off. I told everybody on this show, I said on Brandon's World, take Cincinnati -3. Cincinnati's going to be back. They're going to go on a run here. I get the schedule tough, but when you have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, sometimes it doesn't matter. Which
Jamar Chase gave me 44 points for fantasy football this week.
Okay, so here's a fantasy story. I got to bring this up real quick. How would you like to be me this weekend, okay? Thursday night, I have DJ Moore and Cole Kmet. I start them both. I am up 68-0 going in on Sunday. You know who I end up facing?
Jamar.
Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Zach Moss.
Good God.
Those 3 players combined to give my opponent 90 points, and I end up losing 180-167 in a traditional, PPR ESPN standard scoring week.
Okay. I'm not, even though the Houston Texans lost, I'm not changing my stance. CJ Stroud was definitely the right choice for the Texans at quarterback with the number 2 overall pick. I'm not giving up on what I said about the Texans this last week. They're not legit. They're not like a legit playoff contender, but they're going to give some teams some problems. I'm not changing my stance about that, even though they lost to the Falcons, which Desmond Ridder, can you actually play quarterback? Because
I don't know. He did so in the fourth quarter. How about that crazy catch by Bijan Robinson behind the back, getting in the end zone?
Yes. But other than that,
here's my biggest takeaway. Robert Kraft. At the end of the season, it's time, bud. You got to sit down with Belichick. And one of 2 things is going to either have to happen. Number 1, you're going to have to talk to Bill and say, Bill, if you still want to coach here, you're going to have to at least give up the GM power. Somebody else is going to have to draft or at least help you in scouting offensive personnel. By the way, I don't think Mac Jones is a good quarterback, but I don't think he's bad either. But there is nothing to work with on that New England offense. The Saints completely shut him down. Mac Jones got benched. There's talk in New England about them tanking for Caleb Williams. As great as Caleb Williams was, and as great as he was again against Arizona on Saturday night, even though it took him 3 overtimes, what an incredible game that was. As great as Caleb Williams is, he wouldn't be able to fix this dumpster fire when your receivers are a TikTok boy and a guy that can't separate, and Devontae Parker, West in the league the last 3 years in wide receiver separation, you're not going to be able to win games. So I think, listen, Bill Belichick's a great coach. And I'm not just saying this because I bang on defensive coaches a lot. Bill Belichick is a genius. 5 years ago, he came up with the greatest scheme against Sean McVay and the LA Rams. He held him to 3 points. It was his last Super Bowl. Belichick has shut down even the top offenses in today's game. He gave Tua a little bit of trouble in week 2, even though Miami won. Gave Jalen Hurts a little bit of trouble in week 1, even though Philadelphia won. He made Zach Wilson see ghost again. We're not denying that Bill Belichick isn't a smart defensive coach, but literally all they've hit on in the draft are maybe some offensive linemen and all defensive players. They have no skill position players. They don't look like they can move the ball down the field. And once these teams, because week 1, week 2, week 3, you're starting to get a feel for what teams do. There's not a lot on tape. Over the last 2 or 3 weeks, now that teams have seen New England's offense, they have not been able to move the ball down the field. They have went from a franchise that post Brady, we all thought, give Belichick one more chance, see if Mac Jones, see if he can turn it around. 2 years ago, they made the playoffs. Since they got blown their doors off in negative 10-degree weather by Buffalo in that playoff game, they've turned into an irrelevant franchise and a corner TV game at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes. They're probably going to finish with a top 5 pick in the draft because
I'll tell you what, it's possible, though. I do think now Belichick's specialty has always been pick on young quarterbacks or quarterbacks that aren't very good. It's why I gave him a chance to beat New Orleans, because their offense hadn't been good all season long. They do know Garoppolo. I think that game with the Raiders is going to be very, very close. They do get a chance with the Giants this year. They're going to play Indianapolis, and no matter if it's Anthony Richardson or Gardner Minshew, even though I like Anthony Richardson, it's a rookie quarterback against Belichick. They get to play Washington this year, so they'll be able to beat up on Sam Howell. So there's some wins in there. The problem's going to be, there's a Denver. Can they beat Russell Wilson if he's still the quarterback at that stage? There's a scenario where you get 6-7 wins, as bad as they are, and they finish, with the 11th or 12th pick, and yet they still go out and just draft defensive players. Something's got to change, though.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you with the Patriots. I really don't. I mean, it's looking more and more like it was Brady, not Belichick.
Yeah, and when it was originally, when Brady left New England, I always said it was a 50-50 split, because there were some Super Bowls Brady won. There was obviously some Super Bowls Belichick won. And ever since Brady left, you're right, it's now probably 70-80% Brady, especially for the last, 3 or 4 Super Bowls they won, as opposed to, obviously, the first 2, I think, were mostly Belichick. Again, the games were weird this week. You talked about Houston and Atlanta, very strange game. Vegas got that right on the line at 2. Baltimore obviously let one slip away. I gotta tell you, the Jets made me proud. I picked the Jets in Brandon's best bets this week on Brandon's World. Jets covered the 2.5. They did it for Nathaniel Hackett against the Broncos. This is going to be a real question to me too, is, Denver, we talked about Dallas. They're not going to be able to probably get out of Dak's contract. Denver, as much as they probably want a new quarterback, they're probably not going to be able to get out of that Russell Wilson contract due to the cap hit next year. I think it's like $60 million or something crazy like that. So there's this cycle of Denver having a fire sale. Obviously, they have good pieces. Garrett Bowles, the left tackle. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton at receiver. Patrick Surtain at corner. Do you move off some of those pieces at the deadline to try to tank for a quarterback that, even if you draft in the first round, I don't know how they get out of Russ's contract next year if that's the direction Sean Payton and company decide to go.
The Seattle Seahawks are just laughing at the Denver Broncos right now.
God, you know what's funny? When that trade went down, I think we all kind of said good for Denver. We all thought they had their franchise quarterback, but people were laughing at what Seattle got, and I said no, that's a haul. Like outside of Drew Lock, who I didn't think could be a quarterback, you got Noah Fant in that deal. You got 2 firsts, you got 2 seconds. Noah Fant's a very good tight end, and your favorite quarterback in the league, Geno Smith, who by the way was on a bye this week. He gets to play the Bengals next week. He's played well. But Seattle has done a good job replenishing that roster, drafting good talent, like the tackles they drafted, the corner they just got, Kevin
Devon
Walker,
Witherspoon out of
Devon
Illinois.
Witherspoon. They had the big kid, Wooden Warren, I believe.
Yeah.
DK Metcalf as well as Tyler Lockett. So they have pieces.
Jackson Smith and Jigba,
who hasn't even yet popped. I'm a little bit surprised by that myself. Very fascinating what Denver does, because we talked about this when they got Russell Wilson. It's always the Browns situation with Deshaun Watson, right? Cleveland's in the division with Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. Well, Denver's in the division with Mahomes and Justin Herbert. And if Vegas decides to get a quarterback upgrade, you're going to be fourth in your division. Yeah, how you cannot compete in this league with as great a quarterback play as we have in today's NFL, if you're third or fourth in your division by, a good stretch at the quarterback position, you just can't do it.
Right. I mean, we'll see what the Jets are once Aaron Rodgers comes back. But New England right now, they're fourth in term.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Easily. It's not even close, which is why, unfortunately, as much as we like Mac Jones and thinks he's a good kid, I think it's going to be time to move on.